The Galactic Council had made their decision final. Humanity's contract as auxiliary fleet operators would not be renewed. Commander Zixthor of the Relian Empire stood before the assembled diplomats, his crystalline carapace gleaming under the station's artificial lights, and delivered the verdict with ceremonial precision. "We no longer require human participation in galactic defense operations," he announced, his translator rendering his chittering speech into flat, emotionless standard. "Your species has served adequately, but artificial intelligence and our own trained personnel have surpassed your capabilities. The transition will be complete within one solar cycle." Patricia Chen sat in the observer's gallery, her uniform crisp despite the 20-hour shift she'd just completed.
She didn't flinch.
Didn't protest. She simply nodded once, stood, and walked out of the chamber with her head high. Behind her, Christopher Hayes, her co-pilot and tactical officer, followed in silence. They had given humanity the stars, Patricia thought bitterly, and now they were taking them back. 3 months later, the war began. The Kreshna swarm appeared without warning at the edge of Council space, a writhing mass of biomechanical horrors that consumed everything in their path. They didn't negotiate. They didn't communicate. They simply devoured, transforming entire worlds into festering hives within days. The Council's response was immediate and overwhelming. Fleets numbering in the thousands mobilized, their AI-guided warships executing perfect formations, their alien crews confident in their technological superiority. Commander Zixthor himself led the vanguard aboard the Infinite Dominion, the Council's most advanced dreadnought, a ship that had once been under human operational command. Patricia watched the first engagement from Earth, sitting in a bar in Singapore with Christopher beside her. The feeds showed the Council fleet advancing in textbook precision, weapons firing in synchronized volleys. It should have been beautiful. It should have been decisive. Instead, it was a massacre. The Kreshna didn't fight like anything in the Council's databases. They swarmed and scattered, regrouped and dispersed, their tactics organic and unpredictable. The AI systems calculated probabilities and executed optimal responses, but optimal wasn't enough when the enemy refused to behave optimally. Within 6 hours, the Council had lost 40% of their forward fleet. Christopher set down his drink. "They're panicking," Patricia nodded. She could see it in the formation breakdowns, the hesitation in maneuvers. The aliens had relied so heavily on their systems that when those systems proved insufficient, they had no instinct to fall back on. No improvisation, no chaos, no humanity. The call came 18 hours into the battle. Patricia's personal communicator, one she'd thought would never activate again, buzzed with an encrypted priority signal. Commander Zixthor's face appeared on the small screen, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked afraid. "Captain Chen," he said, his translator catching on the words, "We require your assistance." "I'm not a captain anymore, Commander," Patricia replied coolly. "You made that clear. The Infinite Dominion is compromised. Our AI has locked us out. It insists on continuing its programmed defense protocols, but those protocols are failing. The ship will not respond to any of my crew's commands." His mandibles clicked, and what she'd learned was frustration. "But the core systems still recognize your command codes. You and Lieutenant Hayes are still registered as primary operators." Christopher leaned into the frame. "You said you didn't need us anymore." "I was wrong." The admission seemed to physically pain Zixthor. "We have lost 6,000 ships. Millions are dying. If the Dominion falls, the entire defensive line collapses. Please." Patricia looked at Christopher. They'd flown together for 8 years, operated the Dominion through 17 major engagements, and knew that ship better than anyone alive. They'd walked away with dignity when dismissed, found civilian work, tried to build new lives. But the ship still waited for them. "Get us a shuttle," Patricia said. "We're on our way." The Infinite Dominion was a mess when they arrived. Scorch marks blackened its hull, and internal damage reports scrolled endlessly across every screen. The AI had indeed locked out the crew, running its defensive algorithms in an endless loop, unable to adapt to the Kreshna's chaos. It was, Patricia realized, exactly the problem. Perfect programming couldn't account for imperfect enemies. She slid into the captain's chair, her chair, and felt the ship recognize her. Christopher took his position at tactical, his fingers dancing across controls he could operate in his sleep. "Override code Chen Delta 77, Patricia said clearly. Authorization, Patricia Chen, Captain Terran Auxiliary Fleet. The AI hesitated. Then, almost reluctantly, it surrendered control. Christopher, status report. Weapons at 60%. Shields failing on port side. We've got Kreshna swarmers attached to decks 9 through 15. And we're about to be surrounded. Patricia smiled. Not a happy smile, but the fierce grin of someone who'd been waiting for this moment. Then let's show them why humans don't do textbook. She threw the Dominion into a maneuver no AI would ever calculate, spinning the massive dreadnought like a fighter and scraping the Kreshna swarmers off against a disabled frigate's hull. Christopher didn't wait for orders. He knew her mind, firing weapons in seemingly random patterns that forced the enemy to react rather than attack. They fought like humans fought, messy, improvised, unpredictable. They made mistakes and corrected them instantly. They took risks that made Commander Zixthor's crew gasp in horror. They broke every rule of proper fleet engagement, and they won. 6 hours later, the Kreshna retreated, their swarm scattered and confused. The Infinite Dominion limped back to station battered but intact, having destroyed more enemy units than the previous 50 ships combined. Commander Zixthor found Patricia in the ship's observation deck, staring out at the stars. Christopher stood beside her as always. Captain Chen, Zixthor began, and this time the title wasn't a mistake. The Council wishes to renegotiate humanity's contract. Patricia turned to face him. No, what? You don't need us until you need us, she said quietly. We won't be your emergency button, Commander. Either we're partners with full Council membership and equal standing, or you can figure out the next war on your own. Zixthor's carapace shifted colors. Surprise, she'd learned. Then slowly he inclined his head in the gesture of respect. I will take your terms to the Council. And Captain, the ship truly did wait for you. Perhaps it understood what we did not, that some things cannot be programmed. Some things must be human. Patricia looked back at the stars, at the infinite darkness punctuated by distant lights. Yeah, she said softly. Some things must be. Behind her, the Infinite Dominion systems hummed, content once more under human hands.